Hi, I'm Michael Kloss, Executive Chef of City Market. Thanks for tuning in to our Thanksgiving cooking series. We're going to be featuring a weekly video just with some Thanksgiving tips on how to make your Thanksgiving a little bit easier. We're really going to follow our Thanksgiving meal guide. This is something that you can find in our meat and seafood department at both locations, and it really gives you a nice walkthrough of everything you need to know and what you need to get ready for Thanksgiving. So, as you start to plan your holiday dinner, obviously one of the most important things is what size turkey do I get? We have some helpful tips in the guide here. Generally, we recommend 1.5 pounds per person. So for an average, if you're having a dinner for 10 folks, you would get a 15-pound bird. Obviously this year things may be a little different. You may be cooking for a smaller group. If you don't want to have a lot of leftovers, if you're only cooking for a handful of folks, there's always turkey breasts or buying turkey drumsticks just to sort of save on the leftovers. Now that we've talked a little bit about sizing the bird and choosing the right turkey, one of the things that I like to get ahead on is my broth. It's really the baseline for making a really nice turkey gravy on the day of Thanksgiving. So I really like to start with making a nice fortified turkey or chicken stock, knowing that sometimes it's a little hard to find turkey bones and parts prior to Thanksgiving, so it's perfectly fine to make your base stock out of chicken as it's much more available. Two tips I can offer today that are not in the guide and that will help give you a nice, rich, dark colored gravy, which is very appealing on the day of Thanksgiving, is roasting your bones prior to starting your broth, and also the addition of an onion brulee, which is a classic technique of burning, you could say, an onion in a pan and then adding it to the stock. This adds a nice caramelized onion flavor, as well as it also helps make the gravy darker. Since we're going to be making this earlier, a few weeks in advance, you can try to find turkey bones, turkey necks, really any turkey parts. The more meat on them, the more flavorful the broth will be. Turns into more of a broth than a stock, you could say. Or you could substitute chicken wings or chicken bones or chicken thighs. Today I chose some nice chicken wings from downstairs, so we're just going to place them on a sheet tray here, and then I'm going to roast them at a really high heat, around 425 to 450, to get some nice golden color. This also helps with the reduction of fat in the broth, because we're going to roast this off. A lot of this fat is going to render off, so it's going to make our stock less fatty. When making a stock or broth, it's not terribly important for all the vegetables to be uniform, but we do want them roughly around the same size. I like to rough cut them about 1.5 inches to 2 inches on my celery. We'll add a leek. We want to make sure to rinse these. So I'm going to take this over to the sink and give it a good rinse before I add it to the mix. We're back from the sink, so we're just going to rough cut that leek. Then we have some carrots. If they're nice, clean, local carrots, I really don't peel them. I just give them a good rinse as well, and then we just cut them right in. These same, about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. You could cut coins. It's nice and easy. If you're a little nervous, a little tip: if round vegetables that may roll on the cutting board, if you just take a little bit off the bottom, then it'll help them lay flat on the board, make it a little easier. We're going to add some garlic as well for a stock or broth. It's a nice, clean, local head of garlic. I'll just cut it in half, and we'll add it right in like that. We do have a great and very basic turkey broth recipe in our holiday guide, so feel free to pick one of these up again, and it'll walk you right through the steps of making it. You do want to leave some of the skin on. It's going to help you be able to handle the onion in the pan. So just going to cut the onion directly in half. You actually have a little bit of a natural handle here to help get it out of the pan, or you can use a set of tongs. So once it's nice and dark and bruleed, then we'll take a few layers of the outer skin off, and it'll be ready to go into the stock. To make the onion brulee, we're going to use a cast iron skillet. If you don't have a cast iron skillet, really any saute pan would work. So I just add a dab of oil into the pan. You can see we have a nice smoke on the pan. That means we're nice and hot and we're ready to go. So we're going to start. We're just going to place our onions right in there. You hear them immediately start to sizzle. It's a good sign. You can even roll them around in a little bit of the oil, just so you know they're not really going to stick, and then push them off to a drier section of the pan. Wish you were here because getting a really nice golden aromatic onion flavor going right now. You want to check on them every 4 or 5 minutes, but this process is going to take about probably 10 to 15 minutes to get a really nice and dark caramelized onion. Okay, sounds like I can hear in the oven here, we got a nice crisp on the bones in here, so I'm going to take them out, drain some of the fat off. You can see we're starting to get some nice color. So one thing I like to do is we'll get some of that fat off the pan. Yes, fat is flavor, but come Thanksgiving Day, you're going to have a lot of those pan drippings to use, so we don't want it too fatty. So we want our broth and gravy base to be fairly fat-free. Another thing you can do at this point as well is, you can see these are just about ready to go into the stock pot. We also have our onions bruleeing over here. Sort of another classic thing to do if you're doing a roasted stock like this. You could just put the veggies over the bones and just let the veggies roast for a little bit. They're not necessarily going to burn because these obviously celery, carrots, lots of moisture inside. So they're not going to get super brown, but it will bring out some of the flavors. So we're going to just put that back in the oven for a few minutes. And then we'll check on our onions. All right, let's give our onions a check. I can smell that they're getting nice and dark. You could just smell it. It's almost like a burning or heavy caramelization, exactly what we want. You can see here, we got a nice dark onion. So these are ready. So we're gonna take them out. They look great. Just gonna let them cool down a bit so I can handle them a little better so we can get some of those outer skins off before we put it in the stock. Okay, we're going to take the chicken bones out of the oven for today. So we have our nice roasted bones. Like I said, today we went with chicken, but you could obviously, if you have some turkey parts laying around or you were able to get them from your meat department, turkey works just as well. So we have our tray of roasted bones with some lightly roasted veggies on top. We have some nice herbs to add to the stock as well, and then we have our onion brulees. So I'm just going to start in this order because it's closest to the pot. Like I mentioned, really, you see it comes off really easy, that outer layer of skin. So we'll just take that off with your hands if you can. And then really just take it off like that. And we'll drop those in. Beautiful color there. Beautiful. I always like to put a little savory in my holiday stocks and gravies. It just gives it a really nice holiday, wintry, fall flavor. If you have a favorite herb, now would be the time because this is going to be your base for your gravy. We do sell these nice poultry blend mixes, so it's a little bit of everything, which is right up my alley. So I'm going to add a little bit of everything. So put some oregano in there, some rosemary, some nice thyme, and also some sage. Already smelling great. We really haven't even started. Lastly, we're going to add our roasted bones and veggies, and we will start to add those bones right into the stock. You notice I haven't mentioned seasoning yet. Just because there's going to be so many layers to the gravy, I generally just add a touch of seasoning right at the end, just because in the bones and the herbs you will get a sort of a natural saltiness just to the broth itself. And since we're going to be refining this several times through the process of making gravy, we don't want it to come to an end of being too salty. Okay, now we pretty much have everything ready to get this rolling. I recommend bringing it up to a light boil and then turning it down to a simmer. Most poultry stocks, they don't need to cook more than 5 or 6 hours at best. So I recommend like a 4 to 6 hour simmer on this, and you should be where you need to be, ready to strain. Thanks for tuning in, and look out for our video next week. We're going to be talking about brining your turkey, and we're also going to show you some next steps in the gravy process. See you then.